The world is closing in on anti-LGBTQ plus Hungary as 15 EU countries join lawsuit. A total of 15 European Union countries have joined a legal case against Hungary's child protection law, widely criticized as being anti-LGBT. We have Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Portugal, Austria, Ireland, Denmark, Malta, Spain, Sweden, Finland, Slovenia, France, Germany, and Greece, together with the European Parliament, will act as third parties in the lawsuit filed last year by the European Commission. The deadline to join the case ended on April 6th. The Hungarian law, approved in June 2021, contains one provision that prohibits or heavily restricts depictions of homosexuality and gender reassignment in media content and educational material addressed to audiences under 18 years of age. This triggered a political backlash, with countries signing joint letters and prime ministers openly voicing their discontent with their Hungarian counterpart, Viktor Orbán. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte said that if Hungary moved ahead with the plans, quote, "as far as I'm concerned, then there's nothing left for them in the EU," end quote. The European Commission, which oversees the compatibility of national law with EU rules, asked Hungary to explain why the ban on LGBTQ plus content was necessary to achieve the law's main objectives. Unconvinced by Budapest's reasoning, the EU executive launched an infringement procedure, arguing the legislation infringed upon fundamental rights and several regulations of the single market. I don't even understand this. It's like a 10,000 steps back in time.
Yeah.
From my people. It's where my grandfather was from.
Oh, is he? Wow.
Yeah.
How is Hungary on abortion rights, Amy, or anybody at the table? Does anybody know?
I don't.
don't.
Because somebody needs to make sure of that real quick, all right? If you're not going to give sex education to anybody under 18, then any boy can go over to a girl and go, "This won't get you pregnant, just a tip." And there's going to be a bunch of people pregnant and not knowing what to do, okay? How can you not give sex education to someone who can have sex?
Yeah.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg with this.
You know,
Tip of the iceberg.
funny. I just put it right out there. I know we're going to talk about Hungary and the EU, but let me point out from my seat, this is an incredibly important story
Yes.
to watch as it applies to the United States. Because we're watching something that is applicable. First off, I want to point out about France and Germany. They did not come out of saying that they were coming in as basically plaintiffs in the lawsuit until last week. And both France and Germany has said that, and which is true, now that the UK is not part of the EU, France and Germany are the two power seats in the EU. Sorry, Spain. Sorry, Italy. And they waited very specifically because they did not want to overwhelm other countries that were deciding on what they were going to do against Hungary. France and Germany have come out now to say, nope, we're joining this. And this could be a live and die moment of Hungary, because we are not going to accept discrimination in the European Union. And this moment, when you hear the phrase, there is nothing left for them in the EU, the EU is getting ready to say, okay, you're out, leave. Hungary can't. They can't do it. Financially, they cannot do it. Their only alternative would be some other kind of alliance, and the closest alliance possibility would be Russia. So they're in perilous situation. That's one broad issue. The question is, will the authoritarian Orbán survive this? Will he survive in his decision-making and the country's decision-making to say, we're so homophobic that we're not even going to acknowledge, a la kind of Russia, that we're not even going to acknowledge LGBT existence in media, and we'll guise it under 18 and under. Wait, sounds like a version of Don't Say Gay, which brings me to why this is so important. Our Hungary is Texas. If Texas, in leadership in Texas, could say, okay, over this issue and this issue, abortion, LGBT, drag queens, trans, maybe other kinds of conservative thought, the leadership of the governor and the attorney general, etc., might go, all right, we'll live and die on this hill, and therefore we secede from the United States. That's effectively what Hungary is doing here. They are saying we're going to be in this moment, and the EU, the United States, is saying, okay, but this is where we are at this moment, and we're taking legal action to come to this conclusion. Hungary is a speeding train for removal from the EU, whether they withdraw or the EU forces them out. But it's a similar kind of this world that we're living in America, in Tennessee and in Texas.
In Florida.
And in Florida. That's what's important in this story, because we're watching someone that they're ahead of us. The EU has been working on this for 4 years, and they're ahead of us. But this is the speeding train that they're on in Europe, and the not as fast speeding train we're on in the United States.
I mean, I could see some parallels with what you're saying, and I can't say I fully agree, but that is, one of the things that, like, the EU is there to check Hungary, and I'm kind of curious, like, who's there to check Texas or Florida or Miami-Dade County or wherever in Nashville, or, you know, so all these different things that are, I think there's a lot of truth here. I feel like one of the things that I take away from the story that frightens me, but also we've seen coming, right? And I think that's part of what you're saying to hear, is that we often think about what's happening in the United States and Florida and Texas in these kind of insular ways, but the idea of child protectionism, like that is the idea that you're going to talk about drag queens as being a danger to children, right, is as a kind of, a coded way of being anti-gay, of anti-trans, is really dangerous. And it's a global phenomenon. We're seeing the rise of kind of neoconservatism, of fundamentalism, not just the United States, but in parts of South America and the Caribbean and the Western and Eastern Europe, in parts of Western Africa, right? Like that is, we're seeing a rise in conservatism. It's a global phenomenon.
And let's call it the right word,
Yeah.
neo-fascism.
Neo-fascism. I think you're right. And I mean, there's lots of different versions and iterations of this, but the fact that you can look at this law and almost think of it as Don't Say Gay, or a version of Don't Say Gay, in another language, right? I mean, just literally in another language is horrifying, right? And it also makes that combating this is going to be difficult.
But you know what's encouraging? The fact that 15 countries in the EU not only signed up to be signatories as third parties in this infringement action, but they're also making a broader statement, which is, this is where we stand on these issues and moving forward. And it's not just signing on to an amicus brief, it's also stating your position more broadly.
Well,
I'm curious, do y'all believe the Union? Do you believe these 15 countries, especially France and Germany? Okay, well, then there's nothing else to discuss about you staying in the EU. Do you believe them?
No. No, I don't think they're going to stand behind it so much, because they have a lot riding on this financially as well. Hungary does, so they're still kind of new coming out of communism in Budapest, so it's kind of hard to privatize stuff that was not privatized for so many years, and all the persecution and all the people that died. And I know a lot of Hungarians that still live there that are very homophobic. You know, you try to change one person at a time, and even then, the dudes are like, but I can change you. I'm like, no, you can't. It's not possible.
Do you agree with that? That you think the EU ultimately will fold?
I think the processes are longer. It's just not saying you're out. There's so much that goes behind the scenes to secede from the
penalties.
So it's not even actionable just like that.
But I also really appreciate the point here about the transition from communism to democracy. Like, we can learn a lot about how different governments work after communists take over. I mean, Spain, or any kind of dictatorial takeover. I was thinking of the case of Spain, which of course was it's transition from fascism, not communism in this case, but fascism to democracy. It actually expedited its gay stance, right? Like, that is, almost overnight, Spain became like a leader in
Look
gay
at
marriage.
what's going on in Ukraine.
Ukraine. That's exactly
Russia
right.
has forced Ukraine to go, wait. If we're supporting rights and freedom, wait, maybe it has to be for everybody.
Everyone.
Everyone. I think what's happening is a usurping of one government to another authoritarian. So what's happened? It's as opposed to a transition to democracy where there is a kind of let the people rule,
I don't think they're that far
no,
yet.
that's not.
One last point. You said earlier in our conversation, DeSantis, big D versus little d. We talked about capitalism as what's going to win. Isn't that what's at play here? Because the European Union has all of the capitalism cards.
Yeah.
Hungary financially cannot be independent. This is not 1996.
Yeah.
And so as a result, they become an island in this sea around them that says, oh, we are shunning you, Hungary, and your economic viability is no longer with us. Where are you going to turn? We are going to turn either
To Russia.
to Russia. Oh, and Russia's, the golden goose for Hungary? No, I don't think so. So as a result, will their or their homophobic stance be changed because of the loss and the cost of being homophobic, meaning money?
Maybe they'll take the teeth out of that statute. This negotiation, maybe that will bring it down to having no teeth.
Yeah.
But Hungary will be able to
One last
say
thought.
something.
All of us in our community should be watching what's going on in the Union and Hungary and Poland too. We don't talk about Poland here.
Yeah, you're right.
And Poland has already made multiple changes because of the pressure on the European Union. Perhaps a neo-fascist is leading Hungary and has not moved yet. But we should watch it closely because I do think that there's a lot of parallels between Tennessee's governor, Florida's governor, and Texas's governor, and Orbán of Hungary.
Indeed.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.